I've made it past the video screen and now I'm going into the office to interview. What am I doing as I go in?
You're seeking to make a very strong on-site first impression. That's really kind of the broader strokes of it from that standpoint. This is where you're truly introducing yourself, right? You're not sitting in your office. You're not sitting at a kitchen table with them in their in their private space. You're face to face, eyes to eyes, handshake, and all of that stuff, right? So the ways that I always tell people when it comes to making that first impression is really there's a few things that you really want to be mindful of. One, you want to be mindful that you're on time. I would plan on leaving 15, 20 minutes earlier than normal traffic conditions would allow, just in case you happen to get behind an accident on the way, or heaven forbid you get pulled over for speeding or what have you, right? Make sure that you're leaving yourself with some room for margin and error there. You don't want to walk in 5, 10, 15 minutes late and casually at that point. That's strike one when it comes to interviews. I always tell people to get a real feel for how they're supposed to dress for an interview when you're on site. That could mean asking your recruiter or asking their HR rep or even the hiring manager, hey, what are people in the office wearing? How should I come in prepared to dress? If you don't want to do that, you can go onto their company social media pages and look and see what their photos are showing, in office pictures are showing when it comes to, are they dressed in casual attire? Are they dressed in a suit or what have you? I do believe in dressing for an interview, regardless of whether you're walking into an environment that has shorts and t-shirts on it. This is your first. I wouldn't go in a full tuxedo with a monocle if it was a casual environment, but having a button-down shirt, having some nice slacks and nice shoes in that setting, always dress a level up, from that standpoint. Clint, do you have anything that you would want to add to that before we move on further in the on-site portion?
A couple things, and it's funny if you talk about on-site because it's like when I got into this industry, and even for myself, when I first got in my career, like going on on-site interviews was like the majority of what you did.
Given.
And now they're making a comeback. And so in Ciara, I'm going to throw it back on you in here in a second, but I was talking about there's a couple of people on our team that I know for sure have never had to do a face-to-face interview that actually work with on our team right now. And so I think this might be one of the biggest gaps that we're going to see for people. They're like, I've never gone on site for an interview. And they might be 6, 7 years into their career. If they graduate college right at the end of COVID, they might have done every interview virtually. And all of a sudden they might have to go into first face-to-face. So a couple of things, just words of caution. And Ciara, I want to get your feedback on this. So one, taking physical copies of your resume with you. So the version of your resume that you sent in for that particular job, bring 2 or 3 copies printed out, nice and neat, have it in a folder, ready to go. If you have a manager, and I'm going to do some generational talks, so forgive me about this. If you have a Gen X or Boomer manager, they might say, as soon as you walk in, can you hand me a copy of your resume? Do you have a copy of your resume with you? And if you're like, no, like, why we want to waste trees? Really? You want to waste trees right now? Like, print, like, just be prepared. If you got a hiring manager that's Gen X or Boomer, they'll probably ask you for a printed up version, a copy of your resume when you walk in. So have a couple of versions ready. Have a notepad ready with you so you can take notes. There's so many different things. And I think, and I know, Ben, you've got an anecdote for this, or a story for this. So I'm going to call on Ciara first, talk about her experience with on-sites. And then Ben, I want to hear your story. But the last thing one of the things to keep in mind, every person that you meet when you walk in that building could be the hiring manager. And just a cautionary tale, just because somebody's working at the front desk and they welcome you and they greet you and they get you sat in your room to go do your interview, doesn't mean that you treat them differently than you're going to treat the hiring manager. Because I have heard the stories where someone went to go interview at a small marketing company, person got greeted, and then they go sit down and interview. They're assuming someone else can show up, and that person that met them at the front desk actually was the owner of the company because front desk admin was out that day or out to lunch. And so everyone you meet in that building could have a vote on whether or not you get that job. To treat everyone as if they could be the hiring manager, treat them with that respect. I don't care if you're 1 year out of college or out of school, or if you've been in your career 41 years, you can't make assumptions about who it is that you're meeting when you walk in that building. Okay, Sierra, so when's the last time you went on a face-to-face interview since you graduated from undergrad?
Yes, so I am the professional zillennial on our team, and my internship was the last time I had an in-person interview. And Agile is my third job since college. I did do a lunch with Ben before I officially got my letter, but it was after I had made it through everything. And Clint was actually one of the people who interviewed me, so that was fun. We had a great conversation. You talked about like your cheerleading career, but
Most likely.
yeah,
That's my go-to. Yeah.
going on site as somebody who does not spend a lot of time in an office, I haven't, and I probably never will. It can be a little intimidating. So I know, going back to what you said, I will get lost. I will not find the receptionist. So I need to plan ahead, like very strongly, that if I need to sit and chill in the parking lot for 20 minutes because I am super early, that's what I'm going to do. Coming in with a portfolio, like a nice folder so I can take notes, having those printed out copies of your resume. And I never print anything out. If you don't own a printer, I didn't until recently, you can run to Staples and they will print it for you, like Staples, or I think Walgreens might even do it as well, but having those ready to go. And back to what you were saying, I feel like it should be a general principle to treat everybody with respect and professionalism. But I have heard stories or those funny little Facebook videos where they interview somebody and then they ask the janitor for their opinion because they want somebody who's going to treat everybody with respect. Yeah, so those are my tips there. In terms of dress, what I like to do is, instead of just asking the recruiter or whoever is scheduling your call, go back to their Instagram, their Facebook, look at what people in the office are wearing and go a little bit above that. So here at Agile, we are pretty casual. As you can see, I've got a shirt, but it doesn't have sleeves. So if I was going to interview, maybe a nicer blouse, something a little bit more conservative, I always coach, because you don't know what the person interviewing you is going to have in terms of preferences. And then if, again, to those of us who are younger, if you have any like extreme piercings, like in your face, if you can take them out, I would. If you have colored hair, like myself, you can tuck it back, pull it up, put it in a bun, kind of hide those things until you get the vibe of the office, because some companies do still have in-office policies in regards to like colored hair, visible tattoos, all those sorts of things. And I'm not saying whether or not they should, but you don't want to make that your deal breaker, that the hiring manager is not going to like you because you have a tattoo on your arm. Just wear a longer shirt.
It's a simple fix it, right? At least for the purposes of a conversation. So yeah, I will tell my story real quickly if you don't mind.
Please.
I think this is a classic example. So at my last organization, we had an individual that came in and seriously won the room from A to Z. Receptionist loved him. All the team loved him. Hiring manager loved him, et cetera, et cetera. This individual won the day in the room. And it's a lesson to tell you that from the time that your tires hit the parking lot property until your tires leave the parking lot property, be mindful of your surroundings. We had an exit box that you had to basically code out of or scan out of to get out of the complex. And he was sitting in the exit box and it wasn't working properly, and he blew up in his car. Just was completely angry and was like, pounding on the box and so on and so forth. And what he did not realize was that the CEO was in the car behind him. And so it was one of those things where the CEO was like, "Hey, did we just talk to this person? How was he?" And then it made such an impression on said individual that individual did not truly win the day, we'll say, on that standpoint. So be very mindful of your surroundings at all times when you're in it.
Yeah, even until you get out of the parking lot, somebody still might be watching you. I would totally been me too. I've been losing my mind, like yelling at the box and all the things. Yeah.
You're stressed out. Yeah, at the end of the day,
yeah. I'm trapped.
In that moment. Right. So,
you're like, he's probably like, I'm spent. I did everything possible. I pulled all the tricks, all the charm, and now like this pushed me over the edge. So poor guy.
The person you cut off in traffic ends up leading the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
If you're rude to someone on the train, and then that person happens to be the individual that you're walking to shake hands with, probably might be time to turn around and walk.